How you doing, everybody? Today we are taking a quick look at Christy, directed by David Michôd. The movie stars Sydney Sweeney as boxer Christy Martin, also known as Christy Salters, who is largely credited with putting women's boxing on the map. The movie covers her rise to fame in the world of boxing and her life with her abusive husband and trainer Jim Martin. I did not even realize they were making a biopic about Christy Martin. I saw this at one of those secret screenings where they don't tell you about the movie ahead of time. I knew a little bit about Christy Martin herself, but I wasn't really following boxing all that much when she was doing her thing. In fact, I don't know most of the boxers depicted in this movie, apart from Layla Ali. Based on what I've seen in the Netflix documentary about Christy Martin, the movie does a pretty good job of recreating her boxing career. Most of her boxing matches we only see bits and pieces of, which makes sense. She had almost 60 professional fights, I think, and you can only cram so much in 2 hours and 15 minutes. The Layla Ali fight gets the most focus, which makes sense. It was one of her biggest fights and also one of the few times she lost. And the scene of the pre-fight weigh-in was just baffling, and they do show her basically cheating to make weight by hiding quarters in her pockets. I still can't believe they let her get away with that. I don't think they would today. Of course, I can't speak to how accurate the story of Martin's life outside the ring is, only Christy Martin herself can attest to that. I am aware of one change the movie made. Christy's high school girlfriend has a completely different name. Basically, they created a fictional character, Rosie, based on the real-life person Sherry Lusk, and I can only assume that's because Sherry did not sign off on the movie for whatever reason. For what it's worth, Sydney Sweeney is very good in this. She really disappears into the role. I think the only other movie I really know her from is Madam Web, and I realize this isn't saying much, but this is a better movie. She really nailed Martin's mannerisms and how she talked to her opponents, how she moved in the ring. Very well done. I also like Chad Coleman as Don King. He basically plays the part like a caricature, but from what I've seen of the real Don King, he basically is a caricature, so that works. And Ben Foster also disappears into the role of Jim Martin, who is just a horrible, creepy sack of shit. The movie is not kind to Jim, nor should it be. Rest in peace, you won't be missed. From the very first minute that you hear him speak, you can tell right away, this dude ain't right. And they cover a whole lot of horrible shit he did. Embezzling Christy's money, getting her addicted to cocaine, and his insane jealousy. And this all leads up to his attempted murder of Christy, which is a brutal scene. I still don't understand how she survived that. She was stabbed multiple times, and then shot, and left to bleed out on the floor. Somehow she is still with us. I don't know what to tell you. Some people are just very hard to kill. But all of this creates a very big problem with the story, and that problem is, why the hell did Christy marry this guy? Dude is creepy as hell, even putting aside the fact that he's older than Christy's father. Ugh. Also, she's a lesbian, and I get that it was a marriage of convenience, but was it that convenient? Sure doesn't seem like it, not in the movie anyway. When we get to the part in the movie where he proposes and she says yes, I had to fight so hard to avoid bursting out in the middle of the theater. Why? And the thing is, Martin mentioned in the documentary that there was a side of Jim that she was attracted to, but I'll be damned if I know what that side was because we don't see it in the movie. And it kinda took me out of the story, honestly. I really wasn't buying it. The movie is also tonally all over the place. The story of Christy's boxing career and the story of her life with Jim are basically two completely different movies. They do not mesh well together, and bouncing back and forth between the two gave me serious whiplash. It's also a bit longer than it needs to be. I don't think this needed to be 2 hours 15. Throughout the first half, I was really struggling and just begging for the movie to give me a reason to give a shit. And eventually it does. The second half is much more engaging, but it just took so long to get there. And I think a big reason why I had so much trouble getting into it, aside from the tonal whiplash, is I've seen this story before and seen it done much better. No disrespect to Christy Martin, but I like this movie much better when it was called What's Love Got to Do with It. It's basically the same story except with music instead of boxing. The movie does have very good performances from the cast, but unfortunately that's pretty much all it has going for it. And because of that, I really can't recommend seeking this one out when it hits theaters this weekend. I think you're better off waiting for streaming. Or better yet, just watch the documentary, which is part of Netflix's Untold series. I believe it's called Deal with the Devil. And that's all I have to say about Christy. Till next time, take care.